Hello everyone! In this video, I am going to show you how to make this seedling sock designed by me, and you can find a link to the pattern below in the description box. This sock features a top-down construction with a Dutch heel and a 4-point toe. And in this video, I am going to teach you how to make the Italian cast-on or tubular cast-on, how to do simple fair L or stranded color work, how to do the Dutch heel, and how to do the Gusset Decrease. You can jump directly to the section by scrolling through the time bar for the technique that you are interested in learning. So first, let's look at how to do the Italian cast-on, also known as the tubular cast-on, so that your edge will look more stretchy and have this nice shape of a 1x1 rib. If you don't want to learn this technique for now, you can still use the regular long tail cast on. Just be careful that when you're casting on, you will cast looser than usual, or you can increase your needle size when you're casting on using the long tail cast on. But here, if you're ready for learning the Italian cast on, let's go. So we are going to cast on with this brown color yarn, and first let's reserve three times the circumference that we need. So this is 1 time of the circumference, and 2 and 3. If you want to ask me why there's the 3 magic number, that's because of pi is 3.14, and that's close to 3. So we reserve about 3 times of the circumference that we need. And if you don't have a sock knitted already, you can measure this length by wrapping the yarn around your ankle for 3 times, and this length will be your initial length. So the top side connects to the ball of the yarn, and the bottom side connects to the tip of the yarn. And we're going to hold the yarn like this in our hand. And with your needle, you first circle that towards the inside and bottom of the yarn. And that's the first stitch, and that is a knit stitch. The second is the purl stitch, because we are doing the ribbing. So for the purl stitch, you circle to the outside of you, back to the inside, and then turn that from the middle, and that's a purl because you can see the purl bump forming here. And next is a knit stitch. To do that, you point to the inside, come back from the middle, point to the outside, and that's a knit stitch because you don't see any purl bump here. And we're just going to alternate between the purl stitch and the knit stitch for now. So purl, out, middle, back, and knit, in, out, back, purl, out, in, middle, knit, in, middle, out, back, purl, and knit, (51), 52, 53, 54, and 55. So we are going to cast on 1 more stitch than the required stitch from the pattern, because when we are going to join in the round, I'm going to knit the front stitch and the back stitch together. And the last stitch should be a knit stitch, as you don't see any purl bump around here. For the Italian cast on, you have to knit in the flat again for 2 rows so that you can form the nest edge. and we need to turn our work back for the next row, and that's the tip. And I'm going to hold my working yarn in my left hand side because I'm doing the continental style, but you can do that with the English style and hold that yarn in your right hand. So you leave the yarn tip towards the back, and in this first row you are going to slip one stitch and knit one stitch, slip one stitch and knit one stitch. And I'll show you how to do that. So you slip with the yarn in front, and then the next stitch you knit, you slip with yarn in front, and you knit, you slip with yarn in front and knit. We are at our last 4 stitches. Knit, slip with yarn in front and knit, and slip with yarn in front. And we need to turn our work again. So for this row we need to knit one stitch, slip one stitch, knit one stitch, and slip one stitch. So let's do just that. With yarn in the back, you knit the first stitch, and the second stitch you slip with yarn in front. Next you knit, next you slip with yarn in front, and you just keep doing this until end of the row. Knit, slip with yarn in front, and knit. And now we are finished with our Italian cast on, and we are ready to join in the round. To join in the round, here I'm using the magic loop method. So I'm going to roughly divide my stitches into 2, and you can count on the numbers and divide them exactly afterwards. So anyway, I'm dividing, and I'll pull the cord. And pull the stitches on the left needle, and make sure that all the work should point to the inside of you. So these squishy bits should all point to the inside of you. And remember, I cast on 1 extra stitch, and I'm going to slip that extra stitch to my left hand needle. And pull the cord, and I'll have to make sure all the stitches, all the squishy bit should point to the inside of me. So let's knit the first 2 stitches together. And then we can keep doing the knit 1 purl 1 ribbing. Knit, purl. So now we have worked a few rounds of the ribbing and a few rounds of the solid yellow color. We are ready to knit the colorwork chart using the Fair L style, or also known as the stranded colorwork. So there are a few ways of doing the stranded colorwork, and the method that I'm going to show you today is with a combination of styles, where I use my left hand with the continental style to hold one color of the yarn, and use the English style on my right hand to hold the other color of the yarn. So let's look at the colorwork chart together. So the colorwork chart is read from bottom up and from right to left. So we're actually knitting the seedling motif reversely. And let's look at the first row. We're having 2 yellow, 2 green, 4 yellow, 1 green. So we're going to memorize 2, 2, 4, 1 in our heart. This is just a repeat of 2, 2, 4, 1. And we need to identify the main color and the contrasting color. The main color is the color that have more stitches in a row. So we have 6 stitches for one repeat for the yellow. So the yellow will be the main color here. And we are going to hold the main color in our right hand and the contrasting color in our left hand. So for the continental style of the of the green color, we're going to hold it like this. So tip of the yarn, and this is the end of the yarn, and with your little finger going to wrap around and put my ring finger below and put my index finger below and put it on your left hand like this. And with your right hand to hold it in the English style with the yellow color yarn, also with your little finger wrap around, and the way I'm doing it, I wrap around with my index finger one time like this, and I'm going to hold the needle. So we're going to knit 2 yellow color first. So I want to wrap the green color here with these 2 first yellow stitches. So first I'm going to put the green yarn below and knit this yellow stitch above the green yarn. And then the next stitch, I'm going to knit the yellow, but holding the green color yarn above, like this. So now the green color is somewhat secured here, and you can weave in the ends later on. And we will have 2 stitches of the green, and we can just pick with the continental style. So that's 1 green stitch and another green stitch. And now we have 4 yellow stitches. So with this knitting method, we can carry the floats easily. So we can knit just these 4 stitches and switch color, but there will be a long floats of the 4 of the green yarn. And if you're just wearing your socks, it might be possible that this float will catch your toe. And if you don't like that, we can carry the floats somewhere in the second stitches. So I'm going to show you that. So you knit 1 stitch of the yellow below the green yarn, and you knit the second still below the green yarn. But on the 3rd stitch, you want to carry the floats, and you will turn the green yarn downwards and knit this 3rd stitch of the yellow above this green yarn, like here. And on your 4th yellow stitch, you're going to bring the green yarn forward and knit this yellow stitch below the green yarn. And you can see back here, there's no float for the green yarn. This float is carried in this 3rd stitch of the yellow. And then we can just repeat. There's 1 more green stitch. We knit with the continental style. And then we're going to repeat 2 2, 4. See, I carry the floats again here by knitting the yellow above the green, and then again knit the yellow below the green, and 1. So when you're knitting, you can stretch your fabric so that it won't be too tight. And that's it. And then we will just keep going with the 2241, 2241 code in your heart until you finish knitting all the 10 rows. So there's only 10 rows, so don't worry. And on the 8th row, I designed it so that there are 3 colors in this line. So the brown will be added in this line. And to do 3 color, I would hold the brown and the green both in my left hand, like this. Like this. And with the color chart, you can pick either the green or the brown with the help of your middle finger on your left hand. And even if you couldn't do the 3 color work very well, that's okay, because there's only 1 round, so 50 something stitches or 60 something stitches that you need to do this, and then you will be back with the 2 color Fair L work. So now I have worked the Fair L part and the solid yellow color part, and I am ready to work the heel flap. And just bring back my origami. We have basically finished all the cuff in the round, and for the Dutch heel flap, we are going to knit in the flat for the square using half of the stitches and resting the other half of the stitches on the needle. And we're going to put the beginning of the round at the middle so that when we are changing colors, it won't be see, and all these will just be on your sole. And let's turn to our knitted atom and do that. And this is my beginning of the round, and here's the marker to mark my beginning of the round. And I am going to knit 1/4 of the whole number of stitches, so you can calculate that or follow the instructions. And also I am going to cut the yellow color yarn and change to the green colored yarn. And I decided that for one of the sock I'm going to use the green color yarn, and for another sock I'm going to use the brown color yarn. I have already worked the brown, so I'm going to use the green. I am knitting the 37-38 size, and for my size I'm going to knit 14 stitches. And now we are going to turn our work. So now we are in the right side, and after turning we're on the wrong side. And on this side we're going to slip 1 stitch with yarn in the front. So just slip this stitch, and then we're going to purl 27 stitches for my size. There will also be 14 stitches on this side. And together I will have 28 stitches, which is half of my whole number of stitches leaving on this needle. And I can pull the cord so that these stitches will just be resting on the needle, and I am going to knit these 28 stitches in the flat. Now let's work on the 3rd row. The 3rd row is the right side again, and on the first stitches we're always going to slip 1 stitch. And for the right side, we're going to slip purl 1 with the yarn at the back. And we will purl and knit and we're going to alternate between purl and knit for the right side. And this on this heel flap, we're going to alternate between purl and knit on the right side, and just doing the purl on the wrong side. And you're going to repeat row 2 and row 3 until the number of rows as indicated in the instruction. Purl, knit, and the last stitch is also knit. And we're doing the slip and knit between rows for the 2 sides, because this will make our life much easier when we're picking up stitches along the heel flap, along here. So now I have finished the required number of rows for the heel flap, and now I'm ready to work the heel turn. And just bring back my model. We finished this bit, and we're going to work on a smaller square, as well as using decreases to connect this edge with this edge. So keep using the green yarn, and on the first row, right side, we're going to slip with yarn at the back for 1 stitch. And for my size, I'm going to knit 8 stitches, but for your sizes, you need to check the instructions. And I'm going to put a marker here. And I will keep knitting for 10 more stitches. 10 stitches is the same for every size. And you should have this marker that marks the beginning or the end of the round here. And now we put another marker. And we will slip, slip, knit, which is a decreasing stitch. So slip, knitwise, and slip, knitwise, and knit from the back loop. And this will give you a stitch that is the right stitch covering the left stitch, and we have decreased 1 stitch here. And now we turn. And on this row, we slip with yarn in the front, slip this marker, and purl to the next marker for the 2 sides of the heel flap. So this is the marker you're going to slip, and you will purl 2 stitches together, which is also a decreasing stitch, and you will turn your work. And you can see on this side 1 stitch is already decreased, and it is the left stitch covering the right stitch, so symmetrical for this stitch, which is right covering the left. And for row 3, we will repeat the row similar to row 1, and we're going to slip 1 with yarn at the back and knit all the middle 10 stitches. And we will do the SSK decreasing again, which is slip, slip. So you can see there is a gap here, and we're using the slip, slip, knit to close this gap. And 1 more stitch is decreased, and you are just going to repeat the last 2 rows again for the number of times indicated as the instruction. Eventually, there will just be the middle 10 stitches as well as one more stitch along each side left on your needle. Now I have finished the heel turn and I am ready to work the gusset. And for the gusset, we are going to knit in the round again. We're going to knit these stitches and pick up some stitches along this side of the heel flap and pick up again these rested stitches and then pick up stitches on the other side of the heel flap and then go back to the beginning of the round. So let's begin. We're going to change to the yellow colored yarn or the main colored yarn of your choice. And first let's knit through the other 6 stitches. And now for my size, I'm going to pick up 15 stitches along the side of the heel flap, and that will just be 1 stitch every 2 rows. And to pick up 1 stitch, we're going to insert our right needle into one of the big V's. As you can see, there is a big V, and that's 1 stitch. And here there's another big V. Insert our needle into the big V and pick up 1 stitch. And every big V is for 2 rows because we have done, when we are knitting these flaps, we have done 1 slip stitch every 2 rows. And now we are just going to pick up 15 stitches for my size, and it will be different for your size. After you have picked up these stitches, you can see there is a big V on the side of your stitches. And if you count, there should be 15 of them, or how many times you have picked up along this side. We're going to put a marker here so that later when we're doing the Gusset Decrease, it will be easier. And just so that when we're finishing the socks, there won't be a hole between the heel flap and the yellow main part, we're going to do the following. So we're going to pick up this strand between these 2 stitches and then put that stitch on the left needle, and then I insert my right needle into the loop as if I am to knit, but I'm just slipping this stitch knitwise, and then I put this stitch back from the right needle to the left needle. So I sort of added this 1 more stitch, like using a twisted stitch. And now I knit the newly formed stitch and the next stitch resting on my left needle together. So knit these 2 stitches together. Insert my needle through the 2 loops and knit. And now you can see the hole between the yellow stitch and the green part is smaller, and there won't be a hole after you finish. And then you can keep knitting the rest of the yellow stitches that was previously resting on your needle. And on this side of the main flap and the heel flap, we're going to do a similar thing to close the hole between the main part and the heel part. And to do that, this is the last stitch resting on the needle. Instead of knitting it, I will slip it knitwise. And now here there is a strand between the heel flap and the last stitch. I'm going to pick up this stitch with my right hand needle and put that on my left hand needle. And then I will slip this stitch knitwise. So I insert my right needle as if I am to knit, slip that. I'm going to knit through the back loop together for these 2 stitches. So essentially I'm doing a slip slip knit between the last stitch and this stitch that I just added from this strand. So I'm inserting my left needle through the back loop of these 2 stitches and knit. Oh, and now we can add the marker and keep picking up stitches on the left side. Now I have picked up 15 stitches along this side, and there should be a V stitch on the other side of this yellow stitches on your needle. And then after we finish knitting all these 6 green stitches, we will be done with the first row of the gusset. I have redistributed my stitches that half of them are on one side of the cord and the other half is on the other side of the cord, and the beginning of the round is here. And now we are ready to work the second round of the Gusset Decrease. For the second round, we are going to knit to 2 stitches before the marker, and we will knit 2 together, which is a decreasing stitch, and then we will slip marker, knit to the other marker and slip the marker, slip marker, and we are going to slip slip knit, which is another decreasing stitch, the next row is just plain knitting, and after that you will alternate between the decreasing row and the pure knitting row. So you are basically decreasing 2 stitches every 2 rows until your whole stitch number reaches the total stitch number when you just started the heel again. And after that you will just do stocking stitch, which is just knitting in the round until the length that's proper for your foot.